When Seok entered the Hunter Academy tournament, he shocked one of the strongest hunters in the world. The moment the matches began, everyone realized something was terribly wrong. One after another, the students rushed at him with all the techniques they had trained for, only to get beaten down with nothing but his bare hands. No flashy skill, no special weapon, just perfect timing and overwhelming strength. Even the officials and the guild scouts watching from above could not believe what they were seeing. And when Seok reached the final and crushed the academy's top student, the entire arena was thrown into chaos. Just when everyone thought the tournament was over, Lee Si-yoon herself stepped onto the stage. A world-ranked hunter, a monster compared to ordinary students. Unlike the others, she immediately understood that Seok was hiding something far more dangerous than brute force. Their fight pushed Seok harder than anyone else had. His body slowed down. His breathing grew heavy. Fatigue began to drag him down. And that was when Seok finally revealed the terrifying power he had kept hidden. He ignited his black flame, not to burn his enemy, but to burn the very concept of fatigue itself. In an instant, his exhausted body came back to life. His speed returned, his power rose again, and for the first time, even Lee Si-yoon was forced to realize that the man standing before her was no normal rookie. So how did this guy become so strong? It all begins with our MC, Hyun Seok, narrating how he found himself in another world, which he is requested to save. After 20 years in this new world, he finds himself going up against the boss monster alongside 3 of his colleagues, a saintess, a mage, and a knight. The boss monster commends Seok, telling him that he has put up a really good fight for someone who is known to be a hero. Seok teases him right back, saying he is not looking too good either. The boss monster can't take a joke, and this pisses him off really bad, and he lunges at Seok with a powerful slash. However, Seok blocks his attack with his spear, leaving a loud clashing sound. Meanwhile, the mage is trying to support from behind, and the boss monster threatens to tear Seok apart if he refuses to submit to him. The monster boasts that the land they are in is a kingdom forged by his teeth and claws. The two continue swinging at each other, delivering powerful attacks, but Seok soon gets tired of it all and decides that it is time to end the battle. He powers up his spear with a skill called the Paradox Flame and lands his attack on the boss. This results in a massive explosion that sends the monster flying into the distance, destroying boulders in the process. The two resume their brutal exchange of blows, making the others on the scene look like babies. Seok manages to land a hit on the monster, but it boasts about how it is nothing to him because the attack is too soft. However, Seok soon lets him know how much it can cut down his arrogance. With his spear engulfed in flames, Seok delivers a cut to the monster's body, and this time, the monster realizes how screwed he is. He crashes to the ground with the flames burning away his body. The monster commends Seok, saying he never knew there would be someone strong enough to cut him down, and Seok lets him know that he is not from their trash world. The boss doesn't believe this, as he assumes that Seok is just saying nonsense. Nonetheless, he is convinced that his body will be absorbed into the land, and one day, he will be resurrected. Suddenly, he notices that he is being erased, and Seok teases him, asking him if he finally understands the situation. Seok tells him that the black flame burning him is his special ability, which he named Paradox Flame. He mentions that, unlike normal flames that burn using oxygen, it uses abstract concepts as fuel. Seok tells the monster that he might have been able to resurrect himself countless times in the future, but the flame that is currently burning him is going to prevent him from ever doing that again because his existence is being erased. The boss monster then tries to mock Seok, telling him that he might have killed him, but he is never going to be remembered as the hero who saved the world because the people he believes to be his colleagues are just waiting for him to die in the battle. Seok replies, saying he already knows this. The saintess quickly cuts in, telling Seok that he can't believe the words of a monster. However, Seok starts with the saintess herself, saying she has been claiming that she loves him, but in reality she despises him for being an outsider. Apparently, all of her attempts at seduction were part of the plan, so that when the time finally came to subjugate him, he would find it hard to attack her. The saintess is shocked when she realizes that Seok is actually right. Seok continues by saying he is aware that the mage and knight are just like her. It turns out that the knight has already received a national treasure from the emperor, which is a reward for after he kills Seok. Apparently, the emperor was scared that Seok was going to take his throne. As for the mage, he loves human experimentation, and he hates Seok because he opposes the slavery system. Seok tells them that he has already known all these facts for the past 5 years. The monster is shocked to hear this, and he asks Seok why he doesn't just conquer the world with his power. Seok reveals that he has no interest in doing this because he just wants to return home. Apparently 20 years ago, in the year 2005, Seok was an ordinary 20-year-old office worker until he was transported into this world by a goddess. The goddess tells Seok that he is being transported into this world to save it. By the time Seok arrived in this world, he realized that it was a hellhole. Seok tried everything he could to return home, but the goddess tells him that he has to defeat the monsters and save the world. Since there was only one way to get back to Earth, Seok started training to fight against monsters. Narrating just how messed up this world was, he once rescued a child from the battlefront. But the soldiers won't let him into the village. They tell him to let the boy die because it appears that he is about to. This turned out to be a damned world that would choose to abandon the wounded rather than rescue them. As if this isn't worse enough, their whack levels of medicine and hygiene makes things even worse. At one point, they even amputated a soldier's leg for a simple infection. Even though he managed to get the child into the village, Seok faced another problem, which was the religious fanatics. The religious leaders in the village assumed that the child was able to survive because a demon possessed him. They suggested that they exorcise him with fire, since they were already carrying out an exorcism. As if it is nothing, the dudes are burning away people like firewood. Seok is totally left in shock because he can't believe that he managed to find himself in a world with no concept of human rights. Even with this, Seok managed to survive for the next 20 years, and now, he has finally defeated the monster to save the world. Seok is relieved that it is finally over, and the knight prepares to attack Seok, telling him that he is glad that he knows that they can't let him live. Seok turns to the dude, letting him know that he really hates their world. At this point, even the knight knows that he doesn't really have what it takes to fight Seok. He realizes that they basically created a monster to tame another monster. Just then, Seok looks into the sky and screams out to the goddess, telling her to keep her promise because he already saved the world, just like she said. Suddenly, the sky opens up and the goddess appears, commending him for enduring so much. However, Seok is not ready for her accolades and reminds her of her promise to send him back to Earth. The goddess asks Seok if he really doesn't like this world, even though he has gained so much power to even be a threat to her. She lets him know that if he returns to Earth, all of his achievements as a hero will be for naught. Seok tells the goddess to stop messing around because he is sure she is happy that he is leaving, and the goddess agrees with him, saying the world no longer needs a monster. However, she asks him if he won't regret his decision to go back, and Seok tells her that the only thing he desires is to return to the world he once knew. Seok is already tired of this world that has taken him through hell, and the goddess grants his wish. A bright golden light covers Seok, and the goddess tells Seok that his physical body on Earth has perished, which is why she is going to place his soul into a new vessel. Seok is shocked to hear this, and he asks the goddess who he is going to be. The goddess lets him know that she cannot explain to him in detail, but she lets him know that it is a body fated for a wretched end. Nonetheless, she is pretty sure that he is going to survive, since that is what he is good at. Seok tells the goddess that he doesn't really care because as long as he returns to Earth, he will surely survive compared to what he has faced in his trash world. Soon afterward, Seok opens his eyes in his new body, and he is now in the year 2025. It turns out that he has entered the body of a civilian named Chan-seok. Seok stands up from the bed with the relief that he no longer has to see the traitors who want to kill him. He then spots a mirror in the room, and he walks up to the mirror to check out his new appearance. This is when it finally dawns on him that he is back on Earth. He looks around the room to see that there is clean water for him to use, unlike in the trash world where he is coming from. Even fire is easy to make instead of chopping wood like a maniac. Seok celebrates because this is what he has been missing, and he even finds a box of chicken on the table. Without hesitation, he grabs the chicken, and just a taste of it sends him crazy with excitement. He cries tears of joy because he can finally taste food again after so many years of hell. While he is celebrating his arrival on Earth, he fails to notice a bright red light appearing in the middle of the street. Since Earth is currently in the year 2025, he realizes that this world and the world where he was taken follow the same time flow. However, he is not really concerned about this because no matter how difficult and hard the Earth is, he believes that it will never be as bad as the other world from which he just came back. After he is done eating, Seok steps into the bathroom to have a warm shower and enjoy the benefits of technology with the AC afterwards. He walks to the window to stare into the clear sky, trying to take in everything he has missed all at once. He is thinking of what to do with his life when an ugly-looking monster appears on the window, staring down at Seok. Seok screams out in fear, wondering what he is looking at. Just then, a public announcement echoes through the area, telling all residents that a corrosion rift has appeared within the apartment complex. Seok is totally confused about what they are talking about on the PA system. The announcer continues by urging all residents to evacuate to the underground shelter with immediate effect. Seok remains startled until he notices that the entire window is now covered in monsters that are trying to get into the house. Seok snaps into reality when the window breaks, and the monsters make their way into the building. Seok makes a run for it, while wondering what the monsters are as they chase after him. Seok's smartness saves him as he leaps through a window and hides on the ledge to wait for the monsters to pass by. Once they are gone, he climbs back and heaves a sigh of relief that he has finally lost the monsters. Suddenly, he spots a kid in the distance, and he rushes over to the young lad, asking him what he is doing in such a dangerous place. He suggests that they rush back to the shelter, but the kid is more concerned about the monster that he saw earlier because he is interested in killing it. He asks Seok if he is interested in coming with him, and Seok stares at him in disgust, wondering what the hell the dude is saying. It turns out that Earth has been this way for 13 years. Since the kid is refusing to go to the shelter, Seok has no choice but to follow him, and he ends up tagging along with the kid. The kid then explains to him that a corrosion rift is an opening where monsters come out from, and no one knows why they form or when and where they will appear. After hearing this, Seok starts to think about how he went through hell in the other world just to return to Earth to find it in a horrible state too. The kid is surprised that he has to explain things to Seok, and he asks him why he doesn't know. Seok lies that he was living in America, but this only stirs up another controversy since people can't cross over from the US to Korea. The kid stares at Seok in such a confusing way because he has no idea what he is even talking about. Seok manages to change the topic of discussion away from himself, and he asks the kid about the hunter he said he likes. The kid replies that her name is Lee Seun. The boy mentions that Seun is in the Janabi Guild, and she is ranked 10th on Earth. Apparently, her main weapon is a greatsword, and she is currently in Chaerwon dealing with a corrosion rift. With the way the boy is spilling everything he knows about Seun, Seok can only heave a sigh of relief that he was able to change the topic away from himself. However, he still can't wrap his head around the fact that there is a normal human fighting a monster just like the other world he came from. The dude is still counting out everything Seok needs to know when Seok suddenly covers his mouth, telling him to stop yapping. They take a peek around the corner to see 5 monsters in the distance. However, Seok is able to figure out that there is one monster hiding, which makes them 6 in total. Seok is thankful that the body he found himself in has some level of physical strength. Since he is used to fighting multiple enemies, Seok thinks to himself that taking on the monsters is not going to be an issue. However, the problem is the kid with him, and just when he turns around to look at the dude, he is already shaking. Seok cannot believe that all of his determination to kill monsters has disappeared after coming face to face with one. Seok remains confused about what to do, since he has no weapon with him, but suddenly, he notices the presence of mana in the air. The moment he confirms that it is the same as in the other world, Seok decides to attack the monsters. He steps out of his hiding place and hits one of them with the Paradox Flame. Seok is thankful that he can still have the skill that was engraved in his soul in the other world. Even though the firepower is not as he expects, he believes that it is more than enough for what he wants to do. The monster's head burns off in agonizing pain, and the kid commends Seok, telling him that what he did was amazing. He immediately addresses Seok as his master, saying he has a unique skill, and Seok figures out that rare techniques are considered unique on Earth. The monster is still burning down when the dude decides that he needs to confirm the kill. He rushes over to where the flame is still active, while Seok tries to warn him not to get near the flames until the target is dead. Just as he is about to get hurt, Seok steps in like Superman, blocking the flames with his own hands, getting injured in the process. Seok urges the kid to stop watching things online because reality is apparently different from movies. Seok then borrows the staff that he is holding, using it to cut down the monsters lunging toward them. Seok does this so efficiently as if he is using a real sword, leaving the boy totally amazed by what he is watching. He commends Seok, asking him if he is a secret hunter. Seok, on the other hand, is not entirely pleased with how his new life has started because he is basically back to the life he was trying to escape from. Moments later, they arrive at the shelter and Seok decides to start calling the kid a brat instead of regarding him as an elementary schooler. The moment they step into the shelter, the boy's mother spots him and screams out his name, which turns out to be Yoon Seong. She rushes over to her son, thanking Seok for bringing him to the shelter safe and sound because she knows that it must have been hard. While the woman is busy hugging her son and all, Seok notices that she has expensive things on her, which shows that they are rich. Seok immediately figures out why Seong is a brat, and suddenly the outer wall gets shattered by a monster. Panic immediately ensues with everyone scrambling for safety. They can't believe that the outer wall was demolished, and while everyone is running away, Seong calls Seok to follow them. However, Seok stands there in anger because he can't believe that all he wanted was to return to a normal world, but he is somehow getting messed with. Anger brews in his body as he wonders if he is asking for too much. He stares at his palm that got burnt while saving Seong, before calling him by the name he gave him, which is Brat. Seok asks Seong why he is trying to become a hunter when his family is obviously rich. Seok knows that the dude could have just hidden out somewhere comfortable, and he doesn't even have to fight. Just then, Seong reveals the sad truth of how he lost his father to a monster. Apparently, a corrosion rift opened up in the underground bunker where they were holed up. They all believed that they were safe, but this was the very day that Xiong realized the harsh truth that nowhere on the planet is safe. Xiong says he might not be strong yet, but he plans to become the strongest hunter to get rid of all the corrosion rifts so he can save the world. Xiong says this with all determination and tells Seok that he might sound stupid to him, but Seok cuts him off, telling him that he is actually going to become a great hunter. However, he shocks him by telling him that he won't be able to save the world. Xiong's mother is already panicking, and she tells her son that it is time for them to leave. Xiong is hesitant because Seok is still standing in front of the monster. Suddenly, they see a bright light behind them, and when they turn around, they are shocked to see that Seok has already taken down the monster with his paradox flame. Seok lets Xiong know that he won't be able to save the world because he would have saved it already. With a smile on his face, Seok tells Xiong that saving the world is a job for someone who has done it before. After everything had settled down and Seok had promised Xiong that he was going to save the world, he simply retired to his apartment to play video games and eat junk food. Even though he confidently told everyone that he is going to save the world, that confidence didn't last very long because he lacked the desire, as he had abundant food and video games to keep him company. In addition to this, Seok doesn't think he is needed because there are already hunters working around the clock to save the world. Just then, Seok picks up his phone to order some more junks, and this is when reality hits him that he has already spent all of his termination pay. It turns out that the original owner of the body was an employee at a logistics company, but he lost his job when the company went bankrupt due to a corrosion rift. It then dawns on him that he has to find a job now that he has run out of money. He has already tried to get a job, but this is hard because there is no availability of normal jobs, thanks to the constant appearance of corrosion rifts. In fact, most companies are already going out of business, leaving Seok totally confused about what to do. He's lying on his bed in frustration when a notification pops up on his phone about hunter recruitment. Since he already has experience in this line of work, Seok heads to the Hunter Association. Upon entering the building, he finds plenty of other people who are there with the aim of becoming hunters. Seok hears two guys talking about how the selection process is nothing but a formality because what one needs to do in recent times to be selected is to show a unique skill. Everything seems to be going on normally when the legendary Seon shows up in the building, ultimately causing chaos among the aspirants. The candidates are all happy to see her because they already thought she wouldn't be available since she went to Cheorwan to subjugate a corrosion rift. The candidates conclude that the Janabi squad must have sent Seon out personally to scout for the best among the candidates, but this begs the question of who they are there for. It turns out that it is a candidate named Han Sanga who is an academy graduate and her awakened ability is electrokinesis. When Seon reads her file, she teases Sanga about her power, asking if she can charge batteries. Her assistant quickly reminds her that the girl is a hunter, not a power generator. He tells her that there are rumors that Sanga is skilled with her ability, which means she's going to be pretty useful. Seon's other assistant cuts in, saying hunting in corrosion rifts is real combat, and even though the candidates excel at the academy, there are many cases where they don't achieve great results in actual combat. Seon commends the dude for his ingenuity and commends him with a candy, while the other dude watches in disgust. Seon knows fully well that practice and real combat are completely different, which is why it is going to be difficult for academy students who have only had safe training to endure real combat. She believes that it is going to take a long time for Sanga to finally adapt. Moments later, the host shows up on the stage to welcome everyone to the arena. He tells them that the first match is about to begin, and Seon hopes that Sanga will raise her value enough to convince her. The host then tells everyone that the first candidate is an interesting one because he is a civilian who is not even from the Hunter Academy, which is quite unusual. The host is curious to know what kind of guts Seok has to stand on the stage, and by calling out Seok's name, he is introduced to the crowd. His opponent also steps onto the stage, and the host announces the rules of the match. He lets them know that personal weapons other than the ones provided for them by the association are not allowed. In addition, inflicting life-threatening injuries is banned. Deep down, Seok is just concerned about saving the world while eating well and living his life the way he wants it. And to do this, he figures out that the first step is to get good results in the tournament. Once everything is ready, the referee starts the match, and Seok's opponent lights his spear on fire, while mocking Seok that he is a trash bag who doesn't even know how to gather mana. The dude hasn't even done anything, but he mocks Seok, telling him to consider his loss an honor. He dashes towards Seok while boasting that he is the undefeated spearmaster of the Hunter Academy. Just then, the dude suddenly notices that he can't see where Seok is. Before he knows what is happening, Seok appears beside him and he punches him in the tummy, sending a wave of pain through his body. Seok doesn't stop there as he delivers an uppercut to the dude's head to knock him down. The dude crashes to his knees in pain while missing a few teeth. Seok is surprised that the dude is already down on the ground when he was even holding back because he didn't want to hurt the guy. Seok just assumes that the dude is a beginner, which is why he is weak, because he doesn't want to believe that this is just how weak hunters are. Meanwhile, Seon saw what Seok did, and she was blown away. She immediately whips out her tablet to conduct a background check on Seok. She finds out that he was just a regular guy working at a logistics company, and he doesn't even have mana in his body. One of Seon's assistants says Seok's punch might have been luck, but Seon gives him trash candy, which is basically telling him to shut his mouth. Seon lets them know that Seok is intentionally not accumulating mana. Back in the arena, Seok decides to end the fight once and for all because he needs to show that he is competent. Seok then goes after his opponent, and the dude almost craps his pants when he sees Seok coming for him. Seok assures him that it is not going to be a fatal wound, so he doesn't have to worry. Even though he promised to go easy on the dude, Seok ends up knocking him out cold, ultimately getting the first win of the day. This leaves every official in shock, and Seon notices that the other guilds are already contemplating what to do. However, Seon plans to make her move ahead of them so she can see what Seok is really made of. Seon stands up to leave, and when her colleagues ask her where she is going, she reveals that she has to go and see the association president. As the competition proceeds, Seok continues to take down his opponents relatively easily. Seok is disappointed at just how weak the supposedly new hunters are. He is not even using weapons against them, as he is busy beating them up with his bare fists. Seok is ultimately disappointed in whatever it is they are teaching them in the Hunter Academy because he hasn't even fought a single competent candidate. Soon afterward, Seok makes his way to the final, where he is going to go up against Sangha. Everyone is relying on her to stop Seok's dominant run. The moment Sangha steps on the stage, Seok commends her, saying she is the only one he has seen who has gathered the most mana out of everyone. Sangha, on the other hand, tells Seok that he has managed to get far by luck, but she lets him know that there will be no more flukes. Sangha grabs her sword, saying she has figured out that Seok has no unique skills, which is why he has been punching everything in front of him. However, she lets him know that she has no intention of going easy on him. Seok nervously thanks her for her consideration, and when it comes to a unique skill he actually has, but he has no intention of using it on Sangha. Sangha then takes a deep breath as she gathers her mana, ready to unleash hell on Seok. Once she is prepped, she dashes towards Seok, but to her utmost shock, Seok leaps into the air to dodge her strike. Sangha cannot believe what just happened because Seok basically dodged lightning just by jumping. Seok, on the other hand, is impressed by her skill because by running an electric current through the blade and its handle, she basically made them magnetic. By doing this, she added magnetic force to the power of drawing the sword, ultimately turning it into a railgun. Seok tells Sangha that she has been the best so far, but lets her know that she is missing one important detail. He tells her that she was too focused on just attacking quickly. Basically, her mistake was that in order to accelerate the drawn sword even faster, she laid down a magnetic rail in the empty air. Seok tells her that no matter how fast and powerful it is, there is no idiot who would take an attack with a path that is in plain sight. Sangha still thinks Seok is a fluke, and she tells him not to get cocky because she can defeat people like him without even using the said technique. She dashes towards Seok with another technique, but a slower one. Seok easily runs past this, asking Sangha if she is really dull because he basically dodged her fastest technique, but she is trying to hit him with something even slower. Trying not to lose to Seok, Sangha unleashes a powerful technique to shatter the ground, and Seok soon figures out that the girl is pushing herself to the limit. Seok realizes that the girl will get wrecked if she continues that way. Seok then decides to end the fight, saying they have had enough fun already. He teases her, telling her to raise her left hand if what he is about to do to her hurts. Before Sangha can even react, Seok has gotten to her, and he punches her in the midsection, ultimately disrupting her organs. While she is still trying to understand what is happening, Seok finishes the fight with another punch that sends her flying into the distance. Sangha is knocked out, shocking everyone because they never expected Seok to overwhelm the top student of the academy. Seok turns around to leave the stage but suddenly notices that Sangha is raising her left hand. Seok remembers the joke he made when he told her to raise her left hand if it hurt, and he is surprised that she actually raised her hand. Before Seok can leave, the referee gets an important update, and he quickly announces that the tournament schedule has been changed. He tells Seok to take a short break, leaving Seok totally confused, since the fight should have been over already. The referee then announces something shocking, revealing that Seok and an active hunter are going to have a special match, leaving everyone shocked. It turns out that the active hunter has already been announced to the audience on the monitor, which is only available to them. The entire crowd goes crazy, and Seok figures out that the hunter must be really skilled. This hunter turns out to be none other than Seon, and Seok wonders if she is there to test his abilities. Seon steps onto the stage with her greatsword, telling Seok that she has to fight him because there is no other way to confirm his skills. She introduces herself and the guild she is working for, while suggesting that Seok has a proper match with her. She lets Seok know that he is free to refuse the match because it is too sudden. From a closer look, Seok can see why Seon is ranked 10th in the world because her composure and aura are something to behold. Even though he knows that he is going to have a hard time dealing with Seon in his current body, Seok doesn't mind, and he happily accepts the challenge. Seok suggests that they get the match started immediately, shocking the referee. Seok confidently reveals that he hasn't used up most of his stamina, so he is pretty good. Since he is looking to get the best possible result in the tournament, Seok concludes that fighting Seon would help him with this. Seok then grabs his spear, hoping to see if he can raise his value. 30 minutes into the fight, Seok is still standing, but he is already struggling against Seon's overwhelming power. Seok doesn't want to believe that he is going up against a woman with such a strong body. Nonetheless, he is able to push Seon back, and he even realizes that his speed has reduced when compared to the early stages of the fight. Seok can see openings while fighting Seon, but his body is not agile enough to exploit these openings. He is already sweating, and he looks really exhausted in just 30 minutes of going up against Seon. Seon then teases him, saying she was hoping for a good warm-up for the first time in a while, but she can't believe that Seok is already tired. Nonetheless, she is still impressed that Seok was able to last the number of minutes that he did because she was already expecting him to fall off in the first 5 minutes. Seon then dashes towards Seok, hoping to finish the match. With Seon running towards him, Seok starts racking his brain on what to do. He realizes that he has no mana stored up, and even the mana in the air is sparse. Even though he was reluctant to use his unique skill, he realizes that he no longer has a choice, and just as Seon is about to reach him, he activates Paradox Flame. Thanks to this, he is able to dodge Seon's attack at the last minute. Seon is surprised because she is pretty sure that she swung with so much power and accuracy that it should have been impossible for Seok to dodge, but he managed to. She also notices a black flame burning on his body, leaving her curious. Seok smiles because he has just tapped into the power he trusts the most before returning to Earth. Basically, Paradox Flame doesn't burn matter, unlike normal flames, and the flame also burns using the abstract concepts he has designated as fuel. As of the moment, Seok can't burn concepts with high ignition points like self-memory or reason, leaving him with one practical concept to burn, which is fatigue. Seok dashes towards Seon, and Seon can see that he has gotten even faster. Seok delivers a powerful strike that forces Seon to block really hard, and she is surprised that Seok was able to recover in such a short space of time. The fight between the two immediately erupts into another level as they cross weapons, leaving clashing sounds and light. Seon notices that the concentration of mana in the air keeps fluctuating between high and low, and it is weird because the arena settings haven't changed. It turns out Paradox Flame releases mana as it burns abstract concepts, just like fire releases heat when it burns matter. It is now left for Seok to use mana to ignite the Paradox Flame, and the Paradox Flame in turn burns his fatigue to generate more mana, resulting in an endless circle. The two continue going at each other, shattering the arena grounds with their powerful attacks, and this is thanks to Seok's refusal to give up because he is already used to a war of attrition. At some point, Seon asks him if he thinks he can keep this up, and Seok assures her that he can. Seok asks her if she likes guys who don't know how to quit, and Seon replies that she hates them. Just like how burnt trees leave ash as residue, it turns out that Paradox Flame also leaves behind a residue. If everything is later burned away until only residue is left, Paradox Flame will finally disappear. After 4 hours of intense fighting, Seon finally gets to knock Seok to the ground, and Seon commends him for holding out for so long. Once Seon is declared the winner, she brings out a big lollipop from her pocket and gives it to Seok, telling him that it is a reward for his hard work. She lets him know that her business card is also with the lollipop. Seok checks out the card, and Seon tells him that they are going to talk about the details later. She urges him to give her a call in the meantime, and with the conclusion of the selection trials, Seok is called to the front to receive his award. Days later, Seok uses his smartphone to check out the card details. He realizes that the smartphone basically provides everything that he needs to know. Seok is on his way to meet Seon when he runs into a giant dude who cuts him off. Seok asks him who he is, but he simply gives Seok his business card. Seok checks it out and realizes that the dude's name is Yoon Seong-hyun. He is a partner hunter for the Taebaek Guild, and without wasting time, he urges Seok to come to his guild. Hyun assures Seok that he is going to become a star if he decides to come and gain experience under him. Seok stares into Hyun's eyes and realizes that he isn't lying, but at the same time, he remembers that he already has engagements with Seon, so he can't even give Hyun an answer right away. Seok calmly tells Hyun that he would have to think about it, but Hyun laughs out loud, saying he has no intention of getting an answer right away. Just then, he grabs Seok by the shoulder and he moves closer before telling him to think his answer through. After pulling off this ridiculous stunt, he leaves, telling Seok that he will be seeing him around. However, Seok immediately concludes that Taebaek is not part of his plan. Seok then puts a call through to Seon, asking her where he should meet her. Seon tells him to come to a place called the Hut, which is located on the second floor of the Hunter Association building. Moments later, Seok arrives at the hut, which appears to be a cafe. Upon entering, Seon calls him over to her table, and seeing Seok's reaction, the lady asks him if there is something wrong. Seok reveals that a huge guy who goes by the name Hyun tried to recruit him. Seon is surprised that Hyun showed interest in Seok, and she lets him know that the other guilds would not dare to make an offer again. Seok asks Seon if this applies to Janabi too. Seon then reveals something shocking, telling Seok that she has no interest in recruiting him, leaving Seok to ask her why she would like to meet him. Seon tells Seok that she would like him to work as a freelancer without being affiliated to any guild. Seon tells Seok that Hyun would have most likely offered him a junior position. Seok is confused by this, and he asks Seon what she means by junior position and a partner hunter. Since Seok isn't from the Hunter Academy, Seon explains that the ranks for hunters belonging to a guild are usually divided into three. There are juniors, seniors, and partners. Juniors and seniors belong to teams led by partner hunters, so they are essentially employees on a salary or wage. However, partner hunters have shares in the guild instead of a salary, and they share the net profits the guild earns. In simple terms, they might be seen as business owners. Apparently, the hunter who first established the guilds used law firms as a model. It turns out that one doesn't need to belong to a guild or go through the junior and senior ranks to become a partner hunter. Seok finally understands everything Seon is saying. Basically, if he becomes famous and achieves incredible results, the big guilds will automatically come running after him. Seon confirms this, and she happily gives Seok a candy, leaving the dude wondering why her weird ass is giving him candy. Seok then reminds Seon that he has no connections or anything, so it is going to be hard for him to get proper requests. Seon tells Seok that she is going to help him with this aspect without charging him anything. Seok is surprised, but at the same time understands why Seon would go to this length to help him out. Seon tells Seok that she just wants him to remember in the future that there was a guild called Janabi that helped him out when he was still unknown. In simple terms, Seon is helping Seok, so he can owe her. Seon then gives Seok an envelope telling him that it is his choice to carry out the mission in it or not. Seok asks her what it is, and she reveals that it is a request from Incheon City. Apparently, there is a place called Gyodongo Island where a corrosion zone formed 2 years ago after a failed attempt to eliminate a corrosion rift. Seok asks if it is his job to get rid of the rift, but Seon tells him that his job is to patrol the island, and if any additional corrosion rifts appear, he is to take care of them. The mission is going to start in a month's time, and Seok is getting paid $5 million up front with an additional $15 million if the mission is successful. Seok tells Seon that the pay is not enticing, considering the fact that the job is highly risky. Seon tells Seok to get stronger and become famous so that more money will be offered for his services. Seon then asks him what his decision is, and just as expected, he takes the request. Later on, Seon puts a call through to her boss to tell him just how crazy Seok is. Her boss asks her who he is, and she explains that he is a civilian who cleared the selection trials with his bare hands. The boss doesn't think this is something too crazy, but Seon lets her boss know that Seok practically lasted 4 hours against her. Even with this, the boss still thinks Seok lasted that long because Seon was messing around with him. Seon then reminds her boss that she is a veteran hunter with 10 years of experience, and all of her experience has been built upon surviving hellish places. She mentions that in normal cases, she should be able to toy with Seok, but he gave her a run for her money by lasting for 4 hours. Seon admits just how incredible Seok is, saying she might never get to see another monster like him. Her boss is tired of hearing her glaze Seok and asks her if the mission she gave to Seok didn't require hunters with prior mission experience. The man is worried that Seok might not be able to cope with veteran hunters, even though he is pretty skilled. Seon then tells her boss not to worry because she already paired Seok with someone reliable, Sangha. The boss decides to trust Seon's judgment because she is the brain of the operation in the guild. The boss then asks Seon what she thinks Seok would be like when he reaches her level, and Seon confidently tells her boss that Seok would be able to take him down as well. 1 month earlier, Seok received an order for a spear and an elixir in his apartment. The elixir is a potion that hunters use in emergencies, and it contains condensed mana, which is really helpful when mana is urgently needed. When it comes to handling mana, it is similar to drinking water from a water purifier. One can control mana in the atmosphere, store it in the body, and even use it when needed. The elixir in his hand allows him to do this in a short period of time. However, Seok uses mana in a different way from others because he skips the storage process and directly absorbs and uses the mana from the atmosphere. The advantage of this is that there is no limit, since Seok uses the mana in the air. In addition, in the process of taking in the mana and letting it out, the mana channels that the mana passes through gradually strengthen, which allows for the use of more mana. However, the only downside to this is that until the mana channels grow, the amount Seok can handle is small, which makes it difficult to produce a strong output in a short time. Seok then decides to use some of it since there is no time to waste. He is convinced that he would have gotten better with his new body by the time he trains it for a month. Now in the present day, the hunters line up to have their identities verified before they are allowed into the island. Once Seok's identity is confirmed, the official tells him that he is in Squad 8. Seok joins the rest of the squad and keeps mute while they are all talking like parrots. Just then, he hears someone call his name, and when he looks up, he realizes that it is Sanga. She is wearing an armless shirt, and there is a scar that runs through her shoulder. It turns out that they are in the same squad, and Sanga suggests that they work together on the mission. Seok asks her why he should agree to work with her, and she reminds him that he is stronger than her. Because of this, she believes that she can learn from Seok, and Seok teases her, saying his shoulder is about to fall off from excessive blushing. Sanga's inability to take a joke comes in again as she asks Seok if his shoulders dislocate often. Seok remembers just the same way she literally raised her hand during their match, which shows just how much she lacks a sense of humor. Moments later, the squad is called together, and the official briefs them on the mission objective. Since they have new hunters among them, which is clearly Seok, he mentions that corrosion rifts are classified as Class 1, Class 2, Class 3, and unclassified. The closer a rift is to Class 1, the more dangerous it is. He adds that the first corrosion rift to appear in a specific area is given the additional name, Alpha. It turns out that the current location of the Alpha corrosion rift on the island is the church in the northern part. However, he lets them know that the corrosion is still an unclassified one. Since corrosion gets stronger over time, the official urges them not to go near the rift. He tells them that their mission is to patrol the area to identify and eliminate any additional corrosion rifts that may have appeared. A yellowhead in the squad is surprised that they are embarking on an elimination mission with a rookie among them. Before Seok knows it, he realizes that the entire squad is acting weird toward him because he is a supposed newbie. Before they leave, they are informed that the offshore control room is active and they can contact them if they need help. With this, the hunters are sent off with a stroke of good luck. Upon arriving at the island, the seasoned hunters start to make a plan, but Seok cuts in, suggesting that they set up a base at Hwagisa Temple so that they can operate from there. He shows them where the temple is on the map, but the seasoned hunters can't believe that they are being given instructions by a freaking rookie. In addition, they want to know why he is going to the temple, and Seok explains that from the temple, one can see their target area. In addition, they get to see the entire region directly from the peak. He mentions that the old temple building is also available, so they can just use this for lodging, which is basically the obvious thing that they have to do. The seasoned hunters immediately start screaming at him, telling him that there are several other places that they can stay. One even asks him what they are supposed to do when they are surrounded after needlessly climbing a mountain. Seok reminds them that they are not fighting thousands of enemies, so there is no way they are going to get surrounded. Even though Seok is trying to convince them, the hunters let him know that they have no reason to follow his orders, since he is seriously inexperienced. Seok is left in shock that there are also idiots back on Earth, just like in the other world. Since they have no interest in following him, Seok suggests that they go their separate ways. Seok makes his move and dashes toward the temple with Sanga following him. Surprisingly, the yellowhead from earlier is also following them, leaving Seok to wonder why the dude is following them. Seok calls the dude's name, which is Kim Minjae, asking him why he is following them. Minjae boasts about how he is following them to keep an eye on them because they are rookies. Seok thanks Minjae for his consideration, because he is surprised that there is at least one decent person on the squad. Suddenly, Seok comes to a complete halt, telling the other two to also stop. He tells them to be quiet, and he urges Minjae to take a peek behind the cover. To his surprise, there are monsters in the pathway, and he immediately suggests that they take another path because there are at least 50 monsters in front of them. Seok then asks Minjae what his unique skill is. This question baffles Minjae because he doesn't want to believe that Seok is planning to fight the monsters. Seok asks him if it is not the normal thing for a hunter to fight a monster, and he repeats the question, asking him about his unique skill. Minjae replies that it is flames, and he asks him what skill he is most confident in, to which Minjae reveals that it is fireball. Seok is glad to hear this, and he tells Minjae that he is going to attack the monsters on his signal. Minjae protests against this, saying the whole thing is reckless because there are just 3 of them and they have to go up against 50 of them. He adds that it is their first mission and the right thing to do is to radio the other hunters when they still have the chance to do so. Seok subtly replies that the hunters won't arrive on time because, unlike them, who departed directly from Hwagisa Temple, the other hunters are currently searching along the coast. Seok mentions that it is reckless to call in the other hunters because there is no guarantee that the hunters who hear the radio will even show up. In addition, the monsters can become a threat to the other hunters if they scatter while they wait. Deep down, Minjae knows that Seok is right, because the other hunters might not come immediately because they already had a conflict earlier that day. Seok lets him know that the only option is to deal with the monsters themselves. Even though the situation appears to be disadvantageous, Seok tells them that what they need to do is land a surprise attack. Since they are running out of time, Seok starts to draw out the plan in the sand. He tells Minya that he will be the first to attack the center with a fireball while he blocks the sides. From the plan Seok is making, Minja is completely blown away because he can't believe Seok is anticipating every scenario, as if he is already used to things like this. Once Seok is done explaining, Minja swings into action, and he hits the monsters with a fireball. This leaves a big explosion, consuming the monsters that are hit. Minja pulls back, saying it is going to take time before he can use another fireball. Seok steps up to continue the attack, and he tells Minja to shoot another fireball as soon as it is ready. Minja acknowledges the order, and Seok takes on the enemies, unaffected by the fire, cutting them down like butter. Since Seok is one who prefers efficiency on a mission, he has always believed in dividing roles. He plans to take on the monsters until the next fireball is ready, but he knows for sure that he can't block all of them by himself. This is basically why it is important that they divide roles. Any monster that misses Seok's strike gets taken down by Sangha, who is standing behind. Moments later, Minja tells Seok that he is ready to shoot another fireball, and Seok immediately gets out of the way, giving Minja the chance to land another devastating blow on the enemies. In no time, they have cleared out the enemies, and Seok is still complimenting them for a job well done when Minja pulls out a gun, shocking Seok. Before they can suffer a heart attack, Minja urges them to step aside, and Seok heaves a sigh of relief because he already thought Minja was about to shoot his arse. Seok then implants a microchip into a dead monster, revealing that once the mission is over and the area is secured, the junk dealer he has a contract with will come and collect the bodies. Seok has no idea what the dude means by junk dealer, and Minya reveals that it is hard for them to recover the byproducts from the corpses themselves because they are obviously heavy. Tagging them with chips gives the junk dealers the right to come over after the mission is over to collect anything that is valuable. Once they have collected everything, they appraise the items, sell them, and then split the profits. The junk dealers take their commission based on the contract, and the rest goes back to the hunter who implanted the chip. Seok asks Minja if he can trust the junk dealers, and he replies that this is why it is important to find a good junk dealer to sign a contract with. Minja then commends Seok, telling him that he was amazing because he never expected that the three of them could take on the 50 monsters. Suddenly, Seok's tingling senses tell him that something is wrong. Without hesitation, he grabs Minja and dives forward to dodge a surprise attack from a giant monster that has been stalking them. Fortunately, Minji escapes unhurt, leaving him to ask what just attacked them. Seok takes a closer look at the monster and mentions that it is some kind of mid-level boss. Seok is taken aback by the arrival of the monster, leaving him to wonder if the monster is the boss of the other monsters that they just defeated. Seok can also see that it is no joke because the amount of mana it is giving off is on a completely different level from the ones they just fought. Without hesitation, he tells the two to stay back while he handles the monster. Minja and Sangha believe that they are supposed to help by using a pincer movement, but Seok screams at them to get back, or else they want to go home in a body bag. The level of seriousness in Seok's voice immediately pushes the two back, and deep down, Seok already analyzes the situation to know that it would be better if he handled the monster alone. Since there is no one hindering him, he figures out that he can just use Paradox Flame against the monster. Once Seok is ready, he taunts the monster, telling it to come at him. Moments later, Minja asks Sangha if they are not going to help Seok because he looks like he is in trouble. Sangha lets him know that there is no need for this because it might look like Seok is in trouble, but he hasn't been hit even once since the fight started. In addition to this, the attacks that Seok is dodging easily are something she would have struggled against. Seok is basically dodging and attacking at the same time. Sangha also notices that anytime Seok's spear lands an attack, a black flame appears each time, leaving Sangha to wonder what it is. The more the flame output is, the slower the monster gets. In the beginning, it appeared that Seok was struggling, but it turns out that he is basically toying with the monster. Sangha is totally blown away because she doesn't want to believe that Seok is a rookie hunter like her. After Seok is done toying with the monster, he does something surprising by throwing his spear into the air while the monster dashes toward him at full speed. Sangha freaks out, believing that the monster is going to strike him down, but just as the monster is about to reach Seok, it gets crushed by the spear falling from above. Seok didn't even flinch, showing just how confident he is in his skills. He commends the monster because it could still move even though it had burned all of its strength. Seok then decides that it is time to finish off the monster. Minja is completely overwhelmed by what he just witnessed because there is no way in hell Seok easily took down such a heavy monster. After Seok is done taking down the monster, he asks Minja if it is normal for a monster of that strength to appear on the island. Minja lets him know that he was also wondering the same thing because the monster is not even the core of the corrosion rift. Minja says it could have been possible given they were taken on a rift that was at least grade 3. This is when it dawned on Seok that during the mission briefing he heard that the Alpha Corrosion Rift was unclassified. Since this is the case, Seok lets the two know that the Alpha Corrosion Rift on the island has gone up to grade 3. Sangha doesn't want to believe this because the briefing said otherwise, but Seok urges her to think about it rationally. He tells her that there is no way to explain the situation if the corrosion is not grade 3. Minya freaks out when he hears this because the difference between an unclassified rift and grade 3 is like night and day. Minja reveals that if this is true, the hunters are at risk and they might not even make it back alive. Minja immediately suggests that they go save the other hunters because with Seok's skill, they have a chance. However, Seok immediately rejects the offer, saying he is not interested. Minja asks him why he is rejecting the request, and he reveals that there is no way he is going to save all the hunters on the island by himself. He reminds Minya that he is human and he has his limits too. He reminds the two that their mission isn't to save hunters in danger, but to identify and eliminate any new corrosion rifts that have appeared. In addition, he lets them know that it is obvious that not everyone will survive, which is part of the job memo. Sangha then asks Seok what he is going to do if he is in the hunter's situation. Seok doesn't understand where she is coming from, and she tells him that he would have begged to be saved, and with a stern voice, Seok lets them know that he is not refusing this because he doesn't understand human emotions. He lets them know that he is only talking about the outcome because in this world, there are deaths that are unavoidable. He tells them that once faced with deaths like this, it is normal for one to just die. Seok urges them not to operate with emotions because they are not going to survive in a cruel world with their kind of mindset. Later that night, they make it to the temple, and after searching through the temple, Seok tells the two that the building is safe. Minya then says it is a good thing that they can see the other hunters' locations because of their lights. However, Seok is not entirely in support of this because using lights is a clear invitation for the enemy. He knows that the monsters will be able to handle regular monsters, but he is worried that a stronger monster, just like before, might appear again. Seok then decides to send out a warning, telling the hunters that there is a possibility that the rift has become a grade 3. He urges them to refrain from using lights recklessly because it can put them in danger. Seok then asks Minja if the other monsters will disappear if the core of the rift is destroyed, and Minja confirms this. He lets Seok know that without the energy radiating from the rift, the corrupted zone will vanish. The moment Seok hears this, he concludes that his mission is simple, which is to destroy the corrosion rift. Later that night, once the two are asleep, Seok prepares to step out. Before leaving, he drops an alarm device that would go off if a monster approaches, and Seok believes that he should be able to go and come back without worrying about them. As he cuts through the forest, Seok is glad that he confirmed the location of the Alpha Corrosion Rift during the briefing. Seok believes that things would work out easily, but he ends up jinxing it, as he runs into another boss-level monster, which looks even scarier than the one he fought earlier. Earlier, in the Hunter Association Situation Room, they are freaking out because they have lost the signals of some hunters from Team 5, and they are presumed to be dead. As if this isn't enough, there are reports that the monsters are moving in an organized fashion, and there is already a confirmed casualty in Team 3. The team leader screams out in frustration, wondering what the problem is because the fighters are supposed to be investigating an unclassified corrosion rift. In panic, the team leader declares an emergency, telling the higher-ups that they are going to need reinforcements. He demands that they activate the emergency contact network and send out an urgent request for cooperation to all hunters in the vicinity. They are in the process of this when he is informed that someone is approaching the Alpha Corrosion Rift. The team leader freaks out when he hears this, and he tells his subordinates to contact whoever it is and tell them to stop. One of the officials gets the report that the hunter heading toward the Alpha Corrosion is Seok from Team 8. The team leader orders that they connect to Seok's terminal to immediately confirm that he is alive. The team leader is surprised that Seok is the first to understand the situation because a rift upgrade is an unprecedented event. He figures out that since Seok is the only one heading to the Alpha Corrosion, it basically shows that he is the only one with an answer. By the time they finally contact Seok, he is already engaging the terrifying beast he ran into. Seok screams at those in the control room, telling them that they are crazy for not thoroughly carrying out an investigation to confirm if the rift is truly an unclassified corrosion. Seok makes sure to call them all sorts of names, leaving the officials to consider muting him. While running from the beast, Seok figures out that his paradox flame doesn't have what it takes to defeat the beast. This means he has to reduce the beast's health with paradox flame and then finish it off with his spear. However, Seok is facing a problem because he has already drawn too much mana from the island when facing the mid-level boss from earlier. This has left his paradox flame a bit weak, and since he can't leave the island, Seok decides to find a place where he can draw mana. After some minutes of running around, he finally finds what he has been looking for, which is the Alpha Rift. Without hesitation, Seok dives into the rift while taunting the beast, telling it to keep up because there is something he needs to confirm. Back in the Situation Room, they are shocked when Seok's GPS signal suddenly vanishes, and they figure out that he has entered the Alpha Corrosion Rift. Once he is in the rift, Seok expresses his surprise at how clean the rift is. In addition, it is quite big, and Seok wonders just how big the Grade 1 and Grade 2 rifts are going to be if the unclassified one is this big. Just then, the boss monster shows up on the scene, and Seok figures out that it is time to end their battle. Seok has always had one issue with Paradox Flame, and this is the fact that it spreads to every living being except him. The flame is capable of taking out an ally, and sometimes it even reaches a level that he can no longer control. This is the only disadvantage that the skill has, but if he is fighting alone, it is not much of a disadvantage because he gets to fight whichever way he wants. Seok swings his weapon at the monster, unleashing a big wave of flame on it, while also absorbing mana into every corner of his body. This widens his mana pathways, making him even stronger, and a deep breath of this shows Seok what he has been missing so far. Just then, the monster screams out, and Seok immediately figures out what it is up to. In no time, other monsters show up on the scene, and Seok is not surprised because he knows the monster was calling for backup with its annoying scream. However, Seok tells the boss monster that a game of numbers is useless. Seok creates a barrier of flames around himself, wiping out the monsters while telling them that he is already stronger than before, even though he is not as strong as he was in the other world. According to Minya, the core of the rift will be the strongest monster in the rift. Suddenly, Seok gets attacked from behind by a monster that can talk, but he manages to dodge the attack. By the time he looks back, he sees an ugly monster staring at him. Seok is surprised that the monster is a smart one because it can talk, and even waits till his paradox flame burns out before showing itself. With a closer look, he realizes that the monster standing in front of him is the core of the rift. With the current level of power he has, Seok believes that a 4-hit combo is possible for him, and without hesitation, he makes his move. He throws his spear at the monster, but it blocks it with his spear. However, the force from the spear keeps pressing down on the sword, and Seok activates a skill called Dual Orbit Spear. Suddenly, the spear releases a massive energy blast that breaks through the monster's spear before penetrating its body, unleashing a devastating blast to destroy the monster's body. It turns out that the Dual Orbit Spear is a blue trajectory that is generated following the path of his attack. This trajectory mimics the first strike, but repeats it 4 times. It is basically a technique that repeats 4 consecutive attacks, and if the blue trajectory attacks a bit late, it completes a tricky 2-part spear round that is absolutely difficult to dodge. At this point, the monster is already leaping towards Seok, ready to strike him down. However, this turns out to be its mistake, as the spear closes in at the right time. Seok grabs the spear, delivering a powerful strike to cut the monster before unleashing the final strike that shatters the enemy's body. Surprisingly, after defeating the monster, it just doesn't disappear, as Seok is given a box. Meanwhile, those in the control room were still freaking out, and they believed that it was over because the monsters kept spreading. The team watches in horror, saying only a miracle can save them because all of the hunters are going to be wiped out, since they have denied his request for reinforcement. Suddenly, the team leader is informed that Seok, who entered the rift, just sent a message. The team leader demands to know the details of the mission, and they display it on the main screen. To their surprise, Seok informs them that the Alpha Corrosion has been taken care of. Just as Seok said, they started to get signals that the rift had disappeared, and all monsters had started to disappear. The team leader is dumbfounded when he hears this because it is nothing but a miracle just as he prayed for, but he wonders how Seok did it. Moments earlier, Sangha and Minjae had found themselves surrounded by a horde of monsters. With Seok nowhere to be found, Minjae asks Sangha if there is a chance that they are even going to make it out alive. Sangha realizes that the dude is already at his limit, and even she doesn't know how long she can hold on either. One of the monsters lunges at them, and Sangha prepares to engage, but realizes a grim truth. She realizes that she is already at her limit, and her legs won't even move. Sangha closes her eyes as she waits for death to come. In a surprising turn of events, Seok defeated the core at that very moment and the monsters started to disappear. Later on, Seok arrives at the Island Hunter assembly point and realizes that there are a lot of injured people. He figures out that the corrosion creatures went on a rampage while he was gone. The other hunters who were not ready to work with Seok before already got the news that he was the one who took down the rift by himself. They are all shocked and in disbelief because a grade 3 rift is not something a rookie can just take on. Seok soon finds his teammates and Minjae expresses his shock that Seok took on the rift all by himself. Seok then tells Minjae that his heart wanted to do the right thing. Seok had already decided that he was going to play the good guy since things had gone well already. They are still discussing this when an official shows up, telling Seok that he is Bayon Jongtae and that he is from the Korea Operating Corporation. Apparently, he is the 3rd branch manager for the Northern Incheon province. Bayon tells Seok that the mayor would like to see him. Moments later, Seok arrives at the mayor's office under heavy rain, but Seok doesn't really mind because he is looking to renegotiate his reward. Upon arriving at the building, he is welcomed by Lee Piljae, the communications and liaison officer. On their way to the mayor's office, Piljae lets Seok know that the mayor has been looking forward to the meeting, revealing that he was shocked when he received the report from the island. It turns out that the mayor canceled all of his schedule after getting the report, and Seok teases him, saying he shouldn't have done that because he didn't even do anything impressive. Piljae tells Seok not to say that because a rookie hunter destroying a grade 3 corrosion rift single-handedly hasn't happened since the time when the very first hunter was still active. Seok is surprised that there was someone who had done it before, and he believes that the dude should be the real deal. Not long after this, they arrive at the mayor's office. The mayor, Park Geon, welcomes Seok while also apologizing for calling him out in such awful weather. Geon then tells Seok to have a seat while ordering Piljae to get them coffee. Once they are alone, Geon commends him, telling him that he has done a great service for the country. He admits that the island was a pain in the neck to deal with because their budget was limited, so hiring an expensive guild was difficult. Seok replies that he is pretty sure the man is happy that the issue has been resolved, since he was able to take care of it at a relatively low cost. Geon confirms this while asking Seok if it is true that it is his first mission, and Seok says yes. The mayor gets up on his feet in excitement, saying he is proud of Seok because his first steps were in Incheon. He starts talking about how Korea is the safest country in the world, leaving Seok to wonder what is suddenly wrong with the dude. The mayor continues by saying Incheon is one of the key places in the country because it is a trade center. In addition to this, the Free Economic Zone project is attracting foreigners who want to invest. In fact, there have been so many that it is hard to pick one. The mayor tells Seok that there are massive funds coming through Incheon's international cities. The mayor then tells Seok that he is going to provide all the assistance he can to make life easy for Seok as a hunter. On their way to the mayor's office, Bayon had asked Seok what his purpose was for being a hunter. Seok makes an analogy, saying someone has to always be there to clean the clogged toilet. Upon hearing this, Bayon tells Seok that he is pretty sure he will become famous and extremely popular. He also knows that companies will start begging him to shoot commercials for them, and he might even get scouted for famous TV shows. Seok realizes that Bayon is worried that he would change because of fame, and Bayon confirms this. Bayon says there are many cases of promising hunters who become intoxicated with popularity and honor, causing them to lose sight of their duty. He says this is not shocking because it is natural. He adds that the only safe place is Korea, and it is called the last sanctuary left on Earth. Bayon lets him know that what he has accomplished is incredible, which means many people will be watching him with interest. Bayon tells Seok that he wishes he would continue to be a symbol of hope. Now that Seok is in the mayor's office, Seok realizes that the mayor is basically laying out everything without even going through the corner. However, he knows the mayor will soon learn that he is not someone who is easily swayed by things like this. Seok has lived for so long, suffered many countless hardships, making all of these nothing to him. Seok then asks the mayor if there is something he wants from him, since there is no way he is going to support him for free. Seok goes on the offensive, telling the mayor that he is pretty sure he is looking to buff up his approval ratings for re-election. The mayor is surprised at how well-informed Seok is, and Seok mentions that someone can find everything on their phone. The mayor is stunned by just how much Seok knows, and he asks him if he didn't actually need approval from the city hall. It turns out that the mayor is actually right because he needs the mayor's permission to participate in missions since he is a rookie. Seok realizes that if the mayor frames it well, he could say Seok was a talent he discovered in Incheon. The mayor then tells Seok that he has always maintained relationships with many overseas and domestic companies. He taps on the coffee pack on the table, saying the model shooting the commercial for the coffee brand would soon have her contract run out. He believes that they are supposed to replace her face with Seok's face. He is about to continue with his bullshit when Seok drops the coffee cup, asking the mayor if he takes him for someone cheap. The mayor is confused by this, and Seok mentions that by the way things are going in the world, it appears that the world needs someone who can change the dreary atmosphere. He lets the mayor know that if he continues working as a hunter, it means he can get everything the mayor is promising him really easily. Seok gets up to leave, while the mayor tries to convince him, saying he can provide him with safe and high-paying commissions. Seok walks off, saying his offers are trash, and he can hand them over to his coffee mix model. Meanwhile, a strange man is seen receiving a report about how their test on the island was a failure, thanks to Seok's intervention. They are able to get a clip from his selection trials match, and the strange man gets curious about the black flame around his body. Since the start of the rankings, it turns out that the first of every month is when rankings are always updated, and the whole nation is always looking forward to this. Everyone is looking forward as usual because they want to know who the #1 hunter is going to be. Even though there aren't many changes in the rankings, it is a source of entertainment for the public. Seon is also interested in the rankings because she wants to know if Seok is going to be on it. In the end, it turns out to be so different. In 10th place is Sayun, while 5th place is given to Kim Chae-hyun. Choi Yeoriam was in 3rd place, while Jung Tae-seok was in 2nd place. And as for the 1st place, it turns out to be none other than Seok. This ultimately earned him a big press conference where he is expected to answer questions. All the focus is on Seok because he is a rookie, and he cleared a grade 3 rift. Seok is riddled with questions about how he was able to clear the rift, and after so many questions, Seok finally asks for one last question. The reporter asks him what his resolution is, and he assures them that he is going to do his best. Later on, Seok is invited by the association president, Moon, on a tour. He takes him to where Gonzal's prison used to be. There is a big hole in the ground where Gonzal used to be, and Moon lets him know that what he is staring at is the fate of many countries. Apparently, most countries lost their administrative capabilities after the corrosion rift appeared. However, South Korea became a powerhouse that successfully defended the nation and even made technological advancements. He reveals that the helicopter they are riding in is part of the technological prowess of the country because it runs on mana and blocks out external noise. Seok asks Moon if this is how countries that couldn't handle the rift ended up, and Moon says yes, revealing that many capitals disappeared after the corrosion rifts appeared. Moon suggests that they take a closer look, and as they move closer to the crater, he mentions that there were 8 most dangerous corrosion rifts in the world, and the Gonzal prison is one of them. It turns out that the Gonzal prison was formed 13 years ago, spreading into the city without any signs or warnings. Even though some survived, they still got swept away because the entire area had already turned into a corrosion zone. In a matter of days, the entire city vanished without a trace. As they leave the scene, Moon lets Seok know that the power in the world hasn't changed that much, but central powers have weakened. Deep down, Seok is glad that he is learning all of this information, but at the same time, he doesn't understand why he has to come to the scene to know them. Moon then reveals that Hyun from Taebaek came to see him some days ago, and it appears that he is mad that Seok is not joining his guild. In fact, he asked for Seok's whereabouts, but Moon assures Seok that he didn't give him since it is obviously personal information. Moon tells Seok that the Taebaek guild has an ideology that revolves around survival of the fittest, and if Seok doesn't do what they want, they might want to subdue him with force. Seok cannot believe that they are going to go to that extent, but at the same time, he is worried that he can't take on Hyun at the moment. Moon then mentions the fact that Seok looks like someone who doesn't want to be affiliated with any guild, so he can do his things the way he likes, and Seok confirms this. Moon lets Seok know that he has to raise his standards if he wants to stop Taebaek from coming after him. He mentions that there is a way to do this, and one of them is to take on missions from the association president. The moment Seok hears this, he is not surprised because he already knows that there is a motive behind it all. Seok immediately asks the man what he wants because he is pretty sure he is not going to give him missions for free. Moon tells Seok that all he wants is for him to remember that he gave him help. He then passes an envelope to him, telling him to check out the contents. Seok believes that he has struck gold because it is a deal from the president, which isn't so bad for building a reputation. Seok asks the man what he is supposed to do, and the man reveals that he is expected to escort a cargo ship from Busan to Nanning City. He mentions that transportation isn't easy thanks to the corrosion rifts appearing everywhere. Seok then checks out the lists of what he is supposed to be escorting and realizes that they are all luxurious items, including a car. Seok is surprised by this and expresses his shock at what people still consider a necessity, and Moon lets him know that everything on the list are necessities for some people. Moon expects Seok to understand this, but Seok says he doesn't because he doesn't understand the need for these things in a country where the government is already shattered. Moon says many countries might be collapsing because of the rifts, but it doesn't mean international politics have become obsolete. Seok immediately realizes that the mission is meant to maintain international relationships. Since this is the case, Seok takes off his seatbelt and tells the man that he has no interest in the mission. Moon is shocked to hear this, and he lets Seok know that the Korean government takes the mission seriously. Even with this, Seok tells Moon that he is not interested. Seok tells the old man that it would be foolish of him to involve himself in international politics. The old man is pissed that Seok is rejecting the offer, and he tries to remind him that he is just a new hunter who debuted not long ago, but Seok doesn't really care as he throws the mission papers out of the helicopter. Seok also opens the door, thanking the old man for the ride, but lets him know that he is going to swim back to Seoul himself. Without hesitation, Seok dives out of the chopper and lands in the water below, leaving the man totally shocked. Later on, Seok emerges at the Incheon airport and he casually climbs out of the water. He finds a port worker and the two casually exchange greetings like it was nothing. Since he might get threatened in the future, Seok decides that the first thing he has to do is to strengthen himself. He plans to do this by taking on the trickiest missions so he can become a big shot who would not be swayed by anyone again. Seok looks through his phone and soon finds a mission that looks like what he wants. This is a mission to rescue kidnapped victims on Tsushima Island, and the estimated rank is grade 2. Seok then takes a deep breath with the realization that he is going to be busy for a while. Apparently, on September 3rd, fishermen from Gyeoje Island and Tongyong set out to sea, but the sea was different from usual because corrosion creatures that nested on Tsushima Island appeared and kidnapped the fishermen as if hunting them. According to the words of a survivor who barely escaped, the captured fishermen are still alive. The mission requires that Seok go to Tsushima Island to rescue the captured hostages and eliminate the corrosion rift. As for the reward, it is 55 million won, and Seok knows that the whole money will be his if he handles the mission alone. In addition to this, he is going to be called a hero if he can pull it off solo. Even though it is worth the challenge, Seok remembers what they said about grades and the creatures residing in them. It is said that a grade 3 corrosion rift has the destructive power of a tank, but a grade 2 corrosion rift creature is a natural disaster level. As for grade 1, the whole country would have to mobilize to try to subdue a single corrosion creature. He knows that he was able to handle the grade 3 rift because of Paradox Flame, but he wonders if he can withstand grade 2 by himself. To be safe, he figures out that he might need someone useful, but the problem is to find someone who is ready to take a civilian's request. He wonders if there is really no one who can, but suddenly it dawns on him that there is someone who can. Soon afterward, Seok and his partner, who is no one other than Sangha, boards a ship heading to their target destination. Sangha asks him when they are going to reach their destination, and he replies that they have about an hour. He urges her to replenish her stamina before they get there, because the battle is going to be tougher than the last time. While Seok is busy saying all of these, Sangha is more curious about the metal pad on his shoulder. She asks him about it because with the look of it, it appears that it is a limited edition, leaving her to wonder how he got it. Seok is tired of hearing the girl talk, and he is forced to tell her that the junk dealer he contracted with was the one who gave him as a gift. Sangha is surprised by this because the place she contracted with didn't even give her anything useful. Seok teases her, telling her that the level of expectation is different because he is a rising prospect who handled a grade 3 corrosion rift by himself, unlike her, who is just a shitty rookie with nothing but the title of Academy Valedictorian. Seok notices the cold expression on her face and knows that she is wronged by his statement, but he uses this to tell her to get stronger and become famous to avoid further insult. Some days earlier, Seok had reached out to Sangha to tell her that he needed a teammate. Sangha was initially hesitant because they almost died in a grade 3 rift, and Seok is suggesting that they take on a grade 2 rift. Seok is able to convince her by asking her if she is interested in getting stronger. He assured her that he could make her stronger than she currently is. It turns out that Sangha even has a personal reason as to why she wants to get stronger, and she would even jump into hell itself if it means getting stronger. Moments later, the alarm on the ship goes off, warning them that there is an unidentified object ahead. In no time, they come into contact with 5 ships. Seok is still trying to figure out their next course of action when he sees Sangha levitating, leaving him shocked. Sangha is surprised that Seok can't do this, and she turns red in excitement because she has finally found something Seok can't do. She laughs out loud, making fun of Seok for not being able to do this. To easily move, Sangha is forced to carry Seok on her back, and once they are closer to the ships, Seok tells Sangha to handle the closest ship. Sangha asks him why, and he reveals that the ones in the back appear to be more dangerous than the ones close to them. Sangha acknowledges the order, but as she approaches the ship, she notices a human figure. But Seok tells her to look again because what she is looking at is not human. Seok takes on the ship he wants to clear out, and just as predicted, he finds transformed humans on the ship. These humans have lost their humanity and have totally become aggressive. Sangha lands on the ship roughly, ultimately calling attention to herself. The monsters attack, and Seok easily takes out the first wave. With this, he realizes that they are low-level monsters. He expects Sangha to be going out gently too, but to his surprise, Sangha is using her full power against the weak monsters. Seok immediately calls her name to caution her, telling her that she is using too much mana. He lets her know that if she continues that way, she is going to run out of mana in no time. He tells her that all she needs for the current level is a small amount of mana, and Sangha remembers what Seok said about teaching her to become stronger. Following Seok's instruction, Sangha reduces the amount of firepower she is using, but Seok still lets her know that it is still too much. Since the life of the weak is a tragedy, Sangha has decided that she will never be a weakling again. While tearing down the enemies, Sangha confidently reiterates her desire to become even stronger. Moments later, Sangha is done clearing out the monsters, and she asks Seok if it is over. Seok lets her know that he already took care of the other boats. Sangha reluctantly thanks Seok, telling him that she gained a lot from the advice he gave her. Seok teases her, saying she doesn't have to thank him because the world is filled with people who would not learn even if he spoon-fed them. Sangha comes clean, saying this is the first time someone has advised her, and Seok is shocked by this. He asks her what she was being taught in the academy, and she reveals that since she learned everything quickly, they didn't bother to teach her fundamentals. Seok then teases her, asking her if she doesn't think she's going to be stronger than him if he continues to teach her the way he is. With tears in her eyes, she tells Seok that she hasn't been able to surpass even a single teacher. Seok is surprised to see the girl in such an emotional state, and he casually tells her that she doesn't have to worry about this because it is not going to happen with him, since he is going to make sure that she continues looking up to him for the rest of her life. As they are about to dive deeper, the sailors tell Seok and Sangha that they are going to remain on guard, just in case they need them. Before they start their journey, Seok tells Sangha that according to the survivor, the hostages are at the shrine, and Sangha lets Seok know that there are 2 shrines on the island. There are the Gaijin Shrine and the Atazumi Shrine. If they are looking at the distance, Seok believes that the Gaijin Shrine should be their first stop, and Sangha says they can get there in a couple of hours on foot. Seok knows this is not a problem, but the problem is the fact that when they return, they will have to carry with them 15 hostages according to the survivor's report. In addition, Seok can sense a sinister mana beyond the fog, and he is confident that the corrosion creatures on the island will chase them like crazy. Seok is still thinking of a way out when he spots a vehicle in the distance, and everything immediately becomes clear. He asks Sangha if she is a good driver, and Sangha says yes. Moments later, Seok is already begging for his life because Sangha is driving the vehicle as if it were her last day on Earth. She teases Seok, telling him to take the wheel from her if he doesn't like the way she drives. Seok tells her to forget it, and he leaps onto the top of the vehicle, ready to take on the monsters that are already chasing them. Seok whips out an arrow sling and hurls it at the monsters. This takes out a bunch of monsters, and by pulling it back, it still does the same. Just then, Seok notices that monsters are already leaping towards them from the left, and he warns Sangha. Sangha shows just how much of a crazy driver she is as she maneuvers in the most dangerous possible way to get rid of the monsters. Sangha drives the bus on 2 wheels to get the monsters away from them, and it is at this point that Seok wishes that he were the one driving. As they cut through the lonely roads, the monsters stay on their track, trailing them just as ants go after sugar. Not long after this, they arrive, and Sangha mentions the monsters behind them, but Seok tells her not to worry because he is going to handle them. Sangha drives the bus into the shrine, and Seok immediately unleashes the paradox flame to block the shrine's entrance, consuming whatever monster comes close. Moments later, they find the hostages where they are tied. Sangha walks up to them to introduce herself, but instead of celebrating that they have been saved, the hostages start to act in the most weird way. Tears run down their faces as they urge Sangha to run away, and Sangha wonders why she is being warned. Unknown to her, a giant samurai monster has appeared behind her, ready to cut her down. Fortunately for her, Seok is able to block the samurai's attack, and Seok tells Sangha to get the survivors into the car while he handles the samurai. A fierce battle immediately ensues between the samurai and Seok. The samurai looks towering as he tries to cut Seok down, but even with the height difference, Seok is not scared. Suddenly, Sangha appears out of nowhere and hits the samurai with the vehicle, knocking him to the ground. With the samurai on the ground, Seok commends Sangha's ingenuity, but she just tells him to get in. Seok ends up staying on top of the vehicle, while the hostages are safely tucked in the vehicle. The journey is going smoothly until they realize that the monsters are waiting for them ahead. Seok also notices that the samurai is still alive even after being hit by a car. With a ton of monsters in their path, Seok tells Sangha to give him her sword. Sangha is surprised to hear this because asking a swordsman for their sword is a huge insult. Seok then asks her which one she prefers between her honor and saving the hostages. Sangha has no choice but to surrender her sword, and Seok grabs it, ready to put it to use. Surprisingly, there is a weird device on his wrist, and even though Seok didn't want to use it too soon, he realizes that he has no choice at that point. It turns out that the glove was inside the box that was given to him on the island after defeating the core. It wasn't just any glove because it could gather mana from the atmosphere. When Seok first saw it, he believed that it was meant to supplement one's mana. However, to Seok, it was more than that. It turns out that the maximum mana storage capacity of the glove is 5 minutes. During these 5 minutes, he has what it takes to be strong just like Seon. With the monsters trying to block their path, Seok holds his spear and sword in preparation to unleash a devastating attack. Seok releases his overwhelming attack on the monsters, cutting them all down in one fell swoop. Sangha is left in shock and disbelief because she can't believe what just happened in front of her. Since the path is now clear, Seok tells Sangha to head to the port without looking back. As the journey continues, Seok is surprised to find out that there is no end to the corrupted monsters. They just keep coming after them, and Sangha tells Seok that it would be better for them to get out and handle the monsters because the car is already at its limit. However, Seok tells her to keep driving, and just then, they cross a strange barrier that surprisingly keeps the monsters on the other side. All the monsters find it hard to cross the barrier, while the vehicle strolls away easily. Sangha is left in shock, and she looks around to try to find out why the monsters are suddenly coming after them. She spots a shining symbol on the wall, leaving her to wonder if it is because of the symbol. Sangha remembers that before they made their move, Seok had carved the symbol there, saying it was a protective formation geometry. Sangha asked him what it was, and he replied that it was a method that repels monsters. Sangha was curious, and she asked him where he learned it, but Seok let her know that she could never understand even if he told her. The simple reason is that he learned the skill while he was still in the other world. Now in the present day, Sangha asks Seok if the method can repel any monster, but Seok says no. He lets her know that the barrier doesn't work on the real monsters. Seok is telling Sangha this when the samurai crosses the barrier as if there is nothing there. The samurai's right eye starts to glow, and the red laser catches up to the vehicle. Sangha immediately recognizes this, saying it is called the mind's eye. Seok is confused by this, but he knows for sure that the surrounding atmosphere has turned grim. However, he is not threatened by this, but suddenly he notices that Sangha is already shaking from this. Sangha mentions that mind's eye is the ability to predict an opponent's attacks. She reveals that even for skilled masters, it is a difficult technique. Seeing how shaky Sangha is, Seok urges her not to be afraid because techniques like the mind's eye are just all tricks. Seok then tells Sangha to watch him closely because he's about to teach her how to deal with situations like this. Seok's eyes start to glow, and suddenly, the samurai starts to sense fear, causing him to start swinging his weapon alone. Seok then casually walks in the direction of the samurai, telling Sangha that the skill is something that can be acquired from experience. Basically, the technique reacts to hostility or fear. Since the samurai can't sense this, he just stands there, trying to look tough. Seok lets Sangha know that several skills like mind's eye, heart sword, and even the state of selflessness are brothers. Seok walks up to the samurai with no hostility in him, and he easily cuts him down in one move. The samurai is shattered from Seok's strike, and Seok casually tells Sangha that all the techniques that he mentioned are nothing special. He mentions that the illusion named enlightenment is terrifying because one gets excited by a special name and decides not to push further again. Seok lets Sangha know that what matters on the battlefield doesn't need a special name. Seok reveals that he is able to confidently say this now because he had to sacrifice a lot to escape the trap. Seok tells Sangha that the samurai is actually strong because he got hit by a car and survived, but it is a pity that his ultimate technique, which he's relying on, is nothing but the mind's eye. After hearing all of these, Sangha is thrown into a state of self-reflection, asking herself what she managed to achieve in the subjugation. Sangha immediately realizes that she can't learn the way she wants with half-hearted determination. Since she has a precious goal to pursue, she humbly asks Seok to teach her for real this time around. Seok is surprised by her request because he is already teaching her, but Sangha tells him that what she wants is direct guidance, not advice. Sangha says she has already seen how weak she is and the need for her to get stronger really fast. Seok asks her the reason for this, and she reveals that she wants to end Club Shaddai with her own hands. It turns out that Club Shaddai is among the 8 worst corrosion rifts in the world, and it was famous for swallowing the Himalayas in a single breath. Seok knows that her goal is bigger than usual, and he asks her if she is doing it for revenge. Sangha confirms this, saying she is doing it to get vengeance for her family. She then brings out a card, telling Seok that she is not asking him to teach her for free. Seok checks out the card and realizes that it belongs to the KY Group with a market cap of 257 trillion. Sangha mentions that it is the corporation that her family owns, and Seok is shocked to find out that Sangha is the daughter of a prominent family. She mentions that the owner of the company is her grandfather, but she gave up on the succession competition. Seok figures out that Sangha might find herself in the succession battle again if she does well as a hunter. Seok then asks her what she wants exactly, and Sangha asks him to make her the best, promising to give him elixirs in return. She lets him know that she is going to get him things that are hard to get, like elixirs not released through general distribution channels. Since Seok is also looking to get stronger, Sangha tells him that it will become possible for him with the type of elixirs she is going to provide for him. Seok realizes that Sangha won't even believe him if he tells her that he has already reached the realm that he wanted to before. The main reason he was striving to get strong was to return to Earth the way it was before. Seok then shakes Sangha's hands to tell her that she has a deal. He gives her a list of the things he wants and suggests that they take the hostages to the hospital first. After dropping the hostages at the hospital, Sangha asks the doctor how long it is going to take for them to recover. And since there are 7 patients with nutritional deficiencies, the doctor tells the two that it would take at least a week before conversation is possible. The doctor assures the two that they will be the first to know when the hostages wake up, so it is imperative that they allow them to rest. Seok agrees with the doctor, and he calls Sangha to follow him because their training starts immediately. Once they are in a place where they can train, Seok decides to ask Sangha a question before they start. He asks her if she thinks she can dodge his spear if he swings it with full power. Sanga nervously replies that it is going to be difficult, since there is a huge skill gap between them after all. However, Seok lets her know that she can actually dodge it if she uses her senses to the absolute limit possible. He tells her that she has to see with her eyes, hear with her ears, smell the scent, and feel with her skin. Once she is done with all these, she is expected to fight in the realm of consciousness, not unconsciousness. After explaining all of these, Seok decides that it is time to test her out. Before Sanga even knows what is happening, Seok has disappeared, and Sanga is disoriented in trying to locate Seok. In no time, Seok appears behind her, pointing his spear at her neck while telling her that she just got it all wrong because she was too slow. He explains that her senses come first and thoughts come in later. He tells her that in combat there is no time to think because she has to accept the senses as they are and move. He lets her know that the senses she hasn't mastered will only deceive her in battle. After he is done explaining again, Seok suggests that they move on to the practical aspect. Meanwhile, there is a security dude watching them practice, and the dude is stunned. Even when his friend shows up to watch, they are both left dumbfounded. The ground being used as a training spot is left totally decimated by the two as they cross swords like maniacs. Seok makes sure to make life hard for Sanga so she can get strong as fast as she can. As the battle continues, Seok leaps into the air, ready to deliver a powerful strike that even Sanga realizes she couldn't dodge. Just as the attack is about to land, the security guys call Seok, telling him that one of the survivors just woke up. Seok then decides to end the first training session there because it appears that Sanga has been able to learn how to block a bit. Sanga watches in horror because she can't believe that everything she has gone through so far is considered the first training session. Upon entering the medical facility, Seok asks the survivor if he is fine, and he says yes. He then reveals that a truck came to where he was held captive, and strange people got out of the truck. Sanga asks him if these people were other hostages, but he says no, revealing that they were too calm to be hostages. In addition to this, he notices that the monsters were not aggressive toward them, and it even looked like the monsters were helping them out. He reveals that a few hostages were picked up and moved to the truck. When Seok hears this, he finally realizes what he has been trying to understand. He has been wondering the strange reason why there were just 7 hostages. Seok then asks the survivor about the dude who escaped, but the survivor tells him that it wasn't an escape. Apparently, the bad guys intentionally let them go, and this revelation shocks Sanga to her bones. After the interview with the dude, Seok and Sanga finally understand what they are dealing with. Seok says he has been wondering how a civilian was able to escape easily from a place he and Sanga had a hard time entering. Sanga then asks Seok if he thinks coming for the mission was a trap on its own. Suddenly, Seok speaks out coldly, asking how dare the bad guys pull such a dirty trick. Sanga is totally confused because she doesn't know why Seok is angry. She doesn't know if it is because the enemy is underestimating him or because they used human lives to draw him in. The two then ask the survivor if there is anything else he can tell them, and he reveals that on the waist of the person who got out of the truck, there was a cat mascot. Later on, Sanga is able to figure this out, and when Seok asks her how she did it, she reminds him that his cell phone is not for decoration. In Seok's defense, he tells Sanga that commoners like himself get hit with a huge internet bill once they press the internet button. Sanga cannot believe that the dude is still referring to the early 2000s. Moments later, they run into the dude that they are looking for. The dude has a face full of piercings, and Seok casually mocks him, asking him if he used a sewing machine to patch his ugly face. However, deep down, Seok can see that the dude is no ordinary person, and the dude even acts all tough as he welcomes Seok and Sanga to the big stage. The dude then introduces himself as Kim Ji-yeon, telling them that he will be taking them alive. Seok wonders what he means by this, and he decides to show them instead. He grabs a dude half-beaten and throws him into the rift behind him. Sanga is shocked to see this, and she believes that the people thrown into the rift won't be able to get out until the rift is destroyed, but suddenly the dude thrown into the rift crawls back outside, and he has already been transformed. However, Ji-yeon is not especially pleased with the dude's transformation because he looks really weak. Just with a kick, he sends the dude flying into the distance. Sanga is terrified when she sees this, leaving her to wonder if the bad guys are planning to also turn them into rift creatures. Ji-yeon boasts about this, saying sacrificing normal people hasn't given them the best of results. And the moment he says this, it dawns on the two that the bad guys weren't taking money from hostages, but were carrying out experiments with them. Ji-yeon tells the two that he really doesn't care about them, but because of the great cause and his boss, he is going to explain it just once. He reveals that he and his people are the descendants of Dangun. Apparently, their sole purpose is to maintain and strengthen the influence that South Korea currently holds, so that no one can mess with them. After he is done explaining, he stomps on the floor to unleash a massive wave that sends cars into the air. Ji-yeon then kicks the car toward the two, but Sanga comes in clutch, cutting the car in half. Seok prepares to engage the dude while reminding him that their country is already a superpower, but the dude disagrees, saying it is not enough. Jiyeon dashes toward them, saying they are going to take the nation to heights where no one would even dare to look down on them so that they can make it an absolute superpower. He leaps into the air, aiming to land a dropkick on Seok. He reminds Seok of all the bad times that they have been required to pay tributes in the past and even bow their heads in shame. As he engages Seok in a fight, he talks about how he wants them to return every single humiliation that they have suffered. While exchanging blows with Jiyeon, Seok figures out that he is a Taekwondo black belt, and he is pretty fast, even though he is not armed. Seok soon gets kicked in the chest, sending him flying into the distance. With Jiyeon's last attack, he realizes that he is fast, but his power is actually manageable. Seok actually understands where the dude is coming from, because if all corrosion rifts disappear, it would be hard for Korea to maintain its current position. Seok ultimately figures out that the dude and his squad have no intention of saving the world, and he confirms this. Seok reminds him that countless people are on the verge of death, which means they are supposed to be a priority, but Jiyeon berates them, saying they don't know anything. He mentions that they have already found a way to control the rifts. The moment Seok hears this, he realizes that being able to control the rifts has totally changed the dynamics of things, because if they can, they won't have to suffer the way they are. Seok then asks for a timeout, telling the dude that he is already thinking of cooperating with him. He asks him to what extent they can control the rift, and if his reply is good enough, he is going to hand over Sangha to him. Sangha is shocked when she hears this, and Jiyeon speaks up, saying they have succeeded in controlling the rift just enough. Seok stops him immediately, saying that what he means by just enough is that there is no complete control yet. Seok scolds him, telling him that he talks big, but he is trash when it comes to showing results. Seok calls Jiyeon and his gang a group of thugs who have no idea what they are doing. This pisses Jiyeon off, and he lunges toward them with a powerful kick. Seok barely dodges the attack, and it shatters the ground where the dude landed. Seok realizes that he might have triggered the dude in a way that he didn't want. He was only trying to stall for time to replenish some mana, because the bar on the glove is already down to 1. Seok figures out that the best thing he can do in his current position is to engage Jiyeon in a war of attrition. Jiyeon dashes towards Seok, but Sangha comes to intercept him. Jiyeon teases her, saying he believes she was standing in the rear because she is scared. With the lightning aura emerging from her body, Jiyeon teases her, saying she has some level of courage at least. Seok then urges Sangha to stay back, telling her that she can't handle the dude, but Sangha replies that she can see Seok's glove's remaining battery. She figures out that Seok needs time, and she asks him how much time he needs. Seok replies that he needs 5 minutes, and Sangha whips out a bottle of elixir, telling Seok to leave the fight to her. Sangha starts to glow from the elixir's effect, and Seok is worried that she might overload, but Sangha tells him not to worry because the elixirs are for emergencies, and they are currently in an emergency. Seok then urges her to last for 5 minutes, promising to end the fight after that. As Sangha prepares to risk her life, she tells Seok to make it count when the time comes. A fierce battle ensues between the two, causing Sangha to put everything she has into the fight. As the battle mode thickens, she manages to land a vertical slash on Jiyeon's image, leaving her to pause to see if she was able to take him down. However, Jiyeon appears behind her and kicks her so hard that she is sent flying through the air with blood pouring out of her mouth. Just before she hits the ground, Seok finishes charging up and grabs her. With a calm and cold voice, Seok asks Jiyeon if he is finally ready to die. Jiyeon is shocked because he can sense the mana increase in the dude, and he wonders how he did it, since there is no way he could gather that much mana in such a short time frame. Jiyeon is confused, leaving him to wonder if Seok was hiding his true strength all that time. Seok asks Jiyeon why he is acting so surprised, because he is only following the same principle, just as his piercings. The dude is shocked when he realizes that Seok figured him out, and Seok tells him that only an idiot wouldn't know. Seok tells Jiyeon that he is leaking mana all over the place because he is spamming power that he can't handle. However, thanks to his carelessness, he was able to recover his paradox flame. Jiyeon thinks Seok is talking trash because there is no method to absorb wasted mana. However, before he knows it, Seok has appeared behind him, telling him that he doesn't have to know because he is just about to die. Seok unleashes his 16-hit combo on the dude, slashing him in so many ways while unleashing Paradox Flame on him. Jiyeon is shocked when he realizes that he can't breathe and can't even move his muscles. Seok commends the dude for trying to stand even though he has burned away all of his muscle strength. Realizing that he is about to die, the dude begs for his captain to save him. Suddenly, a projectile comes flying at Seok from above, and Seok manages to sense this before it is too late. He pulls out his spear, blocking the attack. The attack seems to have come from Jiyeon's captain, who is standing on the rooftop. He has a mask on, and there is a hood covering his head. He commends Seok for being able to block the attack because he was looking to crush his wrist before. Seok is curious about who the dude is, and deep down, he can already sense that the dude is Jiyeon's captain. Even though Seok doesn't want to admit it, he realizes that the dude is at least twice as strong as Seon. After taking a closer look, he quickly corrects him, realizing that the dude is 4 times stronger than Seon. The captain then taunts Seok, asking him if he doesn't fear death. Seok calmly replies that he doesn't fear death because he knows the dude would have killed him if he wanted to. Since the captain is holding back and killing him, he asks him if what he is interested in is the black flame he uses. By displaying the black flames, the ones burning Jion get even stronger, causing him severe pain. He begs to be saved, and the captain orders Seok to extinguish the flames, telling him he won't repeat himself. Seok realizes that Jion's mana was already depleted, but the captain has been keeping him alive with his own mana. In addition, he knows that if the arrow the captain shot had aimed for his head instead of his wrist, he would have died. But the captain intentionally didn't do this. Seok has no choice but to release Jion from the shackles of his flames. Before Jion can even fall, the captain reaches in the blink of an eye to grab him. This further scares Seok because he can see just how fast the dude is. The captain berates Seok, telling him that he just ruined Jion's life because he will have to live the rest of his life in a wheelchair. The captain then draws his bow, telling Seok that it is true he would like to take him alive, but he doesn't need to be in perfect condition. Seok then tells the captain to go ahead with what he wants to because there is no way he is becoming his puppet. Seeing how stubborn Seok is, the captain decides to withdraw because he still wants to know more about the black flames that Seok is using. Before vanishing, the captain tells Seok that one day he will also be under his control. After he is gone, Seok realizes that he has gotten himself entangled with someone with a really nasty temper. Sangha then walks up to Seok, saying it appears that the bad guys are after his unique skill. Seok confirms this, but lets her know that he has no idea why they are after his skill. Sangha then asks Seok why the bad guy didn't just take her as a hostage, and Seok replies that they might know about her background. However, Sangha doesn't think terrorists would think about something like this. Seok then tells her to think about it carefully because the terrorists might even be receiving support from the Korean government. Seok urges Sangha not to tell anyone about it, but Sangha reminds him that she doesn't know how to lie that well. Seok suggests that they leave everything till later and deal with the rift in front of them first. However, Seok tells Sangha to stay back because he is going in alone. He urges her to rest and recover till he gets back, and he dives into the rift. Seok lands in the Grade 2 rift and finds an undead castle right in the center of it all. He walks toward the castle, and he can sense some really dangerous energy emanating from the castle. Without being told, Seok figures out that the core of the corrosion is behind the door. Seok admits to himself that he must be careful or else he is going to die if he lets down his guard. He pushes the door open, and standing in the distance is a large pot, leaving Seok to wonder if the pot is the core. Seok is surprised because it is different from what he expected. But suddenly, a hand grabs his leg from behind. The dude looks really terrible and in pain as he begs Seok to save him because his legs are gone. Suddenly, a tentacle emerges from the pot and throws the helpless dude into the pot. Moments later, the dude emerges from the pot, and he is already transformed into an undead. Seok immediately figures out that the pot has been the thing creating the undead. This pisses Seok off so much that he almost throws up. Suddenly, he hears a chilling voice appear in the room, regarding Seok as another sacrifice, but admits that Seok is a bit different from the others. The image behind the voice soon shows up, and it turns out to the core, which is a swordsman. The dude then whips out his sword, and he urges Seok to do the same because he is going to temper his blade with his blood. Seok panics at the appearance of the man because the pressure from his body is overwhelming. This just shows how strong the captain is because he was able to subdue the powerful swordsman whom he is staring at in fear. Seok panics that there must be someone else stronger than the captain. Seok is lost in thought when the swordsman charges toward him and almost cuts his head off, but he barely dodges. This tells Seok that the dude he is dealing with is pretty strong. However, Seok decides to go all out from the beginning before the enemy can figure out his weakness. Seok charges at the core with a powerful strike, which he aims to end the fight with, but to his shock, the enemy blocks his maximum output with just his blade. As if that is not scary enough, Seok is worried that he didn't even see the dude block the attack. Before Seok can react to what is happening around him, the enemy has struck him, slicing his body with his sword. Seok is shocked and scared when he realizes that the enemy is faster than he even thought. The swordsman, however, commends Seok for making him miss his vital points. Since Seok is acting all tough, the swordsman decides to test him with something more dangerous. He delivers powerful and fast cuts to Seok's body, causing him to fall to his knees. Seeing just how much worse the situation is, Seok realizes that he has no choice but to bring out the Paradox Flame. However, he has an issue with this because the enemy is not a living being, so Paradox has no meaning as an attack. Seok is left wondering what he is supposed to do, but he manages to get back on his feet with Paradox Flame. The swordsman is surprised that Seok still has the strength to stand up, leaving him to wonder what he must do to make him fall. Before Seok knows it, he gets cut multiple times again. This time around, it gets worse because every muscle in his body is torn apart, and Seok almost loses consciousness. Fortunately for him, the muscles above his shoulders can still move, and he figures out that using Paradox Flame to boost his recovery and rapidly heal his torn muscles. By quickly doing this, Seok is able to get behind the enemy, and he believes that he finally has a chance. Seok makes his move, but to his utmost shock, the enemy vanishes right in front of him and appears behind him. The enemy makes fun of Seok, telling him that he is too slow and strikes Seok down. However, he refuses to kill Seok, and Seok uses the opportunity to dash backwards. The enemy teases Seok, saying he missed, but Seok screams at him not to mess with him because he could have definitely killed him if he wanted to. Seok asks the enemy if he is toying with him out of pity. The enemy admits that he could have killed Seok, but he is now a changed person. He mentions that at the moment he cannot even recall his name, and most of his memories from life have been lost. He reveals that the gaps in his technique caused by memory loss were really deadly. He reveals that after he was defeated, shackles were placed on him. Seok realizes that the dude is in the opposite state of his situation because the body remains, but the experience and memories are almost gone. Seok figures out that the shackles on the dude's neck are what the captain and Jiyeon are talking about. The enemy starts talking of how much he has lost from his name, down to why he even became a swordsman. He says all that remains is resentment that is steeped in sorrow. Just then, the swordsman goes through a sudden transformation, and Seok realizes that the dude's resentment has grown even thicker. However, he has lost a significant amount of his technique and experience. Seok believes that he has a chance at winning if the dude fails to kill him in one strike. Seok then decides that it is time he unleashes his full power if he wants to defeat the swordsman. The swordsman is surprised when he realizes that all of Seok's wounds have been healed with the black flames covering his body. Seok then places his hand on the ground, and the swordsman talks about his surprise to find out that Seok has a unique ability. However, he can see that the flames are burning something else, and Seok commends him for the sharp intuition. Seok explains that the black flames burn concepts. Even though the black flame might appear to possess infinite destructive power, it isn't actually the case at that moment. It turns out that the greater the quantity and scope of the concept, the more mana it demands. Since large applications are harder to control, Seok knows that he must be careful not to get swept away by the backlash. Seok knows that he wouldn't have needed to worry about control if it were from back then. He has been using the flame with minimal risk, but this time around, it appears that he can't be picky about it. Seok then tells the swordsman that he is going to burn away all the durability in the area. The swordsman is confused by this, and Seok lets him know that he is not ready to explain himself. Without hesitation, Seok dashes toward the dude with his spear. He manages to push the enemy back, and Seok realizes that he can use the whole thing to his advantage since he already figured out that the swordsman has a limit. Seeing how serious the situation has become, the swordsman suggests that they take the fight outside. A fierce battle ensues between the two, and they go at each other like crazy. They destroy buildings, shatter poles, to try to get each other. Seok soon gets overwhelmed, and his spear even gets cut in half. The enemy then unleashes a powerful slash that should have ended Seok, but doesn't hit. Seok manages to break through a boulder while dashing toward the enemy at a blinding speed. He screams like a maniac before hitting the swordsman with his weapon. This unleashes recurrent attacks that send the swordsman flying backwards. Seeing just how powerful Seok's attack is, the swordsman is forced to ask him who he is. The dude is still trying to regenerate from Seok's last attack when he appears from above, delivering perfect laser cuts to his body to shatter his body. The swordsman screams in pain as he loses the majority of his life force, but Seok is not done as he comes at the dude again. The two end up cutting each other, but Seok's cut goes in deeper, slashing the dude diagonally. The two don't want to give up as they scream out in pain, and this takes Seok back to when he was in the other world. Someone had asked him what he would do if he met an enemy equal to him. Seok answered that one of them would not be coming out alive. Now in the rift, Seok's powerful attack is able to land a devastating hit on the swordsman, even though it took everything he had. Nonetheless, Seok is able to smile in the end because he is the strongest. As the swordsman disappears, the rift gives Seok a reward, just like when he defeated the Grade 2 core. Seok is glad that the reward always pops up, just like it does in the other world. He checks out the box and he finds a spearhead, leaving him confused about how he is supposed to use it. However, he wastes no time figuring it out as he throws it into the distance before recalling it. He realizes that he can use mana to extend its length. He remembers that rewards are said to be dropped based on the number of people who entered the rift, and he wishes he had told Sangha to follow him while she stood somewhere safe so she could get one of the rewards. He then notices that the enemy's sword didn't vanish and he decides to take it. Moments later, Seok returns to the surface to find Sangha sleeping. He throws the sword at her to wake her up, and she is surprised because it doesn't look like something she has seen before. Seok tells her that he found it on his way, and he assures her that it is a fine blade because the person who wielded it was no joke. Sanga checks it out and she agrees that the sword is really nice. She asks him where he got it, but an exhausted Seok tells Sanga not to worry about it. All he wants to know is if she had enough rest while he was gone. Before he can say anything else, Seok also passes out. Sanga is surprised, but this just tells her that Seok is also human. Because of how dangerous a grade 2 rift is, everyone went wild when they heard that he had cleared it alone. The public starts going crazy about this because even capable hunters find it hard to do alone. His face is plastered everywhere for the public to see him, making him the #1 celebrity. Later on, Seok wakes up in the hospital room and realizes that he can't even step outside because there is a crowd waiting for him. Moments later, a lady wearing glasses entered the room, and she introduced herself as Ja Soo-jong. Apparently, she is from the Secretariat of Embargo Tower. Seok tells the lady to come in while thanking her for covering his hospital bills. However, he lets her know that he is surprised because he has never heard of the name Embargo Tower before. Soo-jong replies that they are not well known to the public because their main field is ICT. Soo-jong tells him to report if there is anything serving as an inconvenience, but Seok says there is nothing. However, he lets her know that he is curious about something. He tells Soo-jong that he is aware that the hospital bill is not cheap, which means the organization wants something from him. Without wasting time, Seok asks the lady what it is that they want from him. Before saying anything, Soo-jong gives Seok a cake to eat. Once they are comfortable, she tells him about the shield generator. She mentions that it is a device that creates a barrier to defend against corrosion creatures. Basically, the organization wants Seok to help transport this important device. Soo-jong tells Seok that it is still a prototype made in the US, but if it turns out to be successful and it is mass-produced, it will bring some relief to areas that hunters can't reach. Soo-jong lets him know that it is a crucial mission that could potentially change the fate of humanity. Seok then figures out that it is a large-scale request, and Soo-jong confirms this, saying they are currently checking if there are other hunters who are willing to cooperate. Seok asks her about the other hunters, and she mentions that Janabi already agreed to help out. When Seok hears this, he realizes that the whole thing is bigger than he expected. Soo-jong mentions that they will be transporting the shield generator by train. After they leave Vladivostok and it arrives in the Netherlands, they are going to use a chopper to transport it to the UK for a test run. Seok asks her why they are stressing themselves to go to the UK, and she reveals that one of the great rifts, Ristorante, is located in Naples, Italy. Apparently, the influence of this rift reaches everywhere from Europe to North Africa. She mentions that the only safe place left is the UK because it is slightly protected by the sea. She reveals that Europe is currently in a state of anarchy, and governments are failing to function properly. It turns out that hunter companies have seized control of various regions like warlords. Because of this, it appears that they will also be transporting relief supplies at the request of international organizations. This immediately tells Seok that there will be a number of people targeting the train. Soo-jong then asks Seok if he has traveled outside the country before, but he says no. He lets her know that the mission will be his first time out of the country, and Soo-jong tells him that it is likely they will encounter dangerous situations out there. Seok is confused that she is using a plural term, and she reveals that she will be tagging along on the mission too. Seok then tells Soo-jong that he would like Sanga to accompany them. He assures Soo-jong that Sanga is a trusted friend, and Soo-jong doesn't hesitate before accepting Seok's request. Seok is happy with the whole deal because it would make his influence even bigger. Later on, Seok heads to the roof where a helicopter is waiting for him, and he is surprised that the association president is the one who got it done. The man lets him know that soloing the Grade 2 rift changes his perspective on things, and he assures him that the association would do its best to guarantee his activities to the fullest. Deep down, Seok is glad that he proved his strength with his skills because this has made things easier. At the same time, he wonders if the chairman knows about Jiyeon and his people. He is curious to know if the president would want the reality that befallen Earth to continue or end. The moment Seok steps into the helicopter, he is surprised to find Seon waiting for him. Seon commends him, saying stories about him have spread all through, and it would be easier to even find someone who doesn't know him than to find someone who does. Seok then asks her where they are heading, and she reveals that they are going to an army base. Seok asks her why they are going there, and she reveals that the South Korean military is also planning to participate in the request. Seok understands that every country would be willing to participate because if it turns out to be a success, the reliance on hunters for national defense would decrease. However, Seok doesn't think South Korea would like it. Seok then asks Seon if she knows the organization called the Descendants of Dangun, and Seon confirms this, saying that they are a terrorist group. Seok mentions that he ran into them while he was handling the mission on Suhima Island. Seon tells him that the descendants of Dangun, composed entirely of Koreans, have been showing up all over the place, and when hunters are in the middle of clearing a rift, the group suddenly pops up and interferes. Seok adds his insight on this, and just like always, Seon gives him a candy, leaving the dude to wonder why Seon is doing this. Just then, Seon asks Seok if he has left Korea before, and Seok is surprised that she is asking him the same question that Sujong did. Seok casually replies that it is his first time, and Seon tells him that the mission will make him realize a bunch of things.